Hey guys, Rick Denham here with Holy Moly Outdoors. We're back now for part 2 of our seminar at the Something Catchy Kokanee Derby. We have Sam Baird, owner of Slammin Salmon Guide Service now, getting ready to share his tips and tricks for how to catch Lake Chelan kokanee. This will be a 2-part series, so stay tuned and enjoy what Sam has to share. Take care and fish on.
My name is Sam Baird. I'm owner and guide of Slammin Salmon Guide Service here in the Wenatchee Valley. I've fished Lake Chelan since I was just a little guy. According to that first seminar, I'm amazed I've ever caught a kokanee in my life. But so the thing is, last year I put over 1,000 kokanee in the boat just on Lake Chelan alone. It's a pretty impressive number for anybody, considering a lot of the people I fish with haven't had a lot of experience with those fish. So I'd like to kind of start off with a question with how many people in here have actually gone kokanee fishing? Okay, how many have actually caught some kokanee? Right? So I want to do my seminar a little different today because I think time and time again you get guys that come up and they run down the leader lengths and here's what to do, here's this and that. And then really, you hear the same thing over and over again. Basically, if any of you hit me up on Facebook, text message, phone call, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm using anyway. I'm going to tell you exactly what depth, what scent, what bait. It's fine. There's a million kokanee out there. We ain't going to catch them all. I don't hold back any secrets. But what I would like to do with this seminar is maybe help you guys out to become maybe a little bit better or a little bit more consistent kokanee fishermen. What I want to talk about is transition. The kokanee, what people have a lot of trouble figuring out is kokanee or a sockeye salmon. They just hadn't got the ability to get to the ocean and back. And so when you start talking kokanee as a lot of people think of them as a trout, and they're a completely different beast. The kokanee are a salmon, and salmon transition from, little guys in freshwater heading out to the ocean. They come back. Their whole life is a transition. So to become a better kokanee fisherman, you've got to learn to transition like the kokanee transition. So, for instance, let's start off at the beginning of the year, which has become earlier and earlier these days. But your December, January, February fishery, that's early season. So if you think about it as a salmon, the kokanee have the exact same spawn cycle as sockeye. They spawn the same months. Some lakes may be a little bit different depending on what's going on in the water, temperatures and all that, but basically about the same. So, in those winter months, your kokanee are feeding. They're going to be deep. Why? Because like on a lake like Chelan, your water that's down deep is actually warmer than the water that is up high. So the fish are going to be lower. They're going to be lower where the feed is because the feed also wants to be in that warmer water. So in the December, January, February, you'll hear us online and everything talking about, oh, we're catching them at 160, 180, 200, 250 feet deep. That's just where they're at. And what happens is all of a sudden people go into the month of March, and what I always love to call is the March lull. March, the fish, what they do is they start to transition. And us as fishermen get stuck in our ways. Well, I was up there last week, by golly, and I caught them at 200 feet, and that's where they're going to be again. That's not the case. As you fish longer, you'll learn that these fish all of a sudden up and decide, no, I don't want to do that no more. Just like the dam counts for sockeye. They go from 0 to 20,000 in like 5 days. Fish can transition quickly. So, what I'm talking about is like you get up there in March and you think, oh no, the fish aren't here anymore. Well, no, they've transitioned. They may be right there, but they may be 50 feet shallower. They may be, up to 75 feet shallower. They may be a little more aggressive, maybe a little less aggressive, depending on what the weather has done to them. So as you go through the season, you got to be willing to transition things. Early season, December, January, February, it's deep, it's slow. You want to fish slow, fish deep, and then use, like scent-wise, more natural scents. Why? Because they're in the feed pattern. They're feeding, so you want to use your krills, shrimp. There's a certain individual that does really well on herring. There's, anything that's natural scent to them. As you start to transition into the second run, and what I consider is like a migration. So from Mitchell Creek up in those early months, all of a sudden the fish start to get maybe a little bit smaller. You know, Jeff Wachowski is someone that you can really talk to about this, because he'll post up photos of all these nice winter kokanee, and all of a sudden he goes, oh, I'm having trouble finding the big ones. Well, it's because now all of a sudden here come the little ones pouring in. The little ones that are a lot more aggressive. So, what happens is those fish are now transitioning down the basin, okay? If you're not willing to transition with them, you're going to be stuck either with small kokanee or no kokanee at all. Last year's Derby was a prime example. Those fish were piled in Mitchell Creek 2-3 weeks before the Derby. Unbelievable fishing, like 30, 40 fish in a matter of 4 hours. All of a sudden, the day of the Derby, only a few boats did very well up there. It was just dead. Yet there I was down just up above the monument, in between there and the state park, hammering. I mean, we had 2 limits in, I think, hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, both days. So what I'm saying is transition down. March, all of a sudden those fish start to move down the basin. They're following the food supply. So you got to think, what's going on? The water's pushing those fish down. Cold water's entering the head of the lake due to snowmelt. The water temperature's pushing them down. So now all of a sudden you get into this mid-March into the more, mid-April bite. Those fish are now stuck between the monument area and sometimes still Mitchell Creek. Usually bump down a little bit towards the bottom end of what I call the Mitchell Creek run, so up and above the yacht clubs. At that time, those fish now are starting this migration down to the feeding grounds of the lower basin, around the blue roofs and all that. So what happens is the fishing will slow down while they're moving. They start to move, they slow down. Again, think of it as like sockeye. When the sockeye are coming up the Columbia River, people have a lot of trouble catching them until what? They hit a dam and they have to stop. They cross a dam, like on top of Rocky Reach, they stop. Or the Brewster Pool, Lake Wenatchee. Once they stop, now you can catch them. Kokanee are no different. When they start their moving pattern, you're going to have a lot of trouble catching them. Why? Because all they want to do is move. Kokanee, being a sockeye, can cover more water than any other fish. So, as they start to transition down, you've got to be ready to transition for them. This last week, all of a sudden, I just pulled out with clients and decided, okay, I'm going to stop in at the state park. I hadn't fished it. I had no idea, just the timing of the year. Stopped in, instantly just started hitting fish. I was like, hey, they're here. The next day, went down at the bottom end of the monument, couldn't get a bite. Went back up where I was, boom, they were there. It was like, okay, they're on the move. So be willing to transition with the fish down the lake. All of a sudden you get into May, and you hear people start talking about Rocky Point, Party Point, the Blue Roofs. Even last year, they went as far down as into Lakeside, down in the old 50-foot stomping grounds of water where it was just literally covered with fish. But if you stayed up above, you weren't going to get into them. So transition down. So this first part's all about location. Transition with the fish. Migrate with them down as the water gets warmer. After May, when you get into June, pleasure boats kind of dictate that you move up lake before the kokanee are really ready. But then again, you can follow them all the way back up to Stehekin and catch kokanee in Lake Chelan clear through August. And it's honestly, if you get up there, you're going to catch some monsters because they've continued to grow this whole time. So not only do you want to transition with your location, but you want to transition with lure choices. Early in the year, big profiles. The fish are more scattered. They're running around looking for whatever food they can find. And so you want something big for them to see it. The eliminators that Moneymaker puts out with the big 1.5 wings and bigger hoochies. Super baits. 2 years ago, if somebody would have told me to run one of these, I would have laughed at them, told them to get it off my boat. I was never going to run it. Finally, Scott Fletcher hooked one onto my rod, and I've never looked back. I catch an absolute ton of fish on that big lure, and I have no idea why. But they like them. But big lures, needlefish spoons, big hoochie riggings with big blades, all of that. But now again, as those fish start moving down lake, the transition happens. I start making things smaller. Smaller, but yet more action. So like more of like the assassin spinners. Again, I stick with the super baits. For some reason, those things just defy the rules. But then smaller hoochies, smaller blades, start downsizing everything all the way down to when now all of a sudden you're in that lower basin. You know, I call everything below the monument the lower basin. I know everybody has a different idea of it, but I'll start to then narrow it all the way down to like wiggle hoochies, definitely little blade baits, anything that has a lot of action, a lot of aggressive type strike lures. The other thing I'll start to do is shorten leaders. You know, something I didn't really want to talk about is leader lengths and all that. I always run 2 times dodger length, no matter what it is. I don't care if it's self, you know, action lures like spoons. I might go a little bit longer, but like any kind of hoochies, spinners, any of that, it's always 2 times dodger length. Instead of judging or trying to decide, oh, how long of a leader should I run, I'll just do 2 times dodger length and I'll adjust the action with my boat speed. I can go from 1.2, which is about all I ever run because I am a slow troller. I'm that guy annoying everybody out there because I won't go fast enough. But instead of like shortening my leader too much, I'll speed up to 1.4. You're going to get the exact same reaction to your lure as if you shortened your leader and stayed going the same speed. Now, Frank and I, as you know, one thing they didn't mention is he is also the defending champion of the Derby from last year, which he got really lucky on, but still he won it. You know, his flies that each hold 1 hair out of that lovely beard. You know, again, last year I would have never thought that flies were. I really just didn't like them, and I really didn't like Frank. But he gave me one, and he said, hey, just run it, let me see. By far and away, from the beginning of the season in February to now, to the end of the year, those things are going to fish. They're going to catch fish all the way through. They have a shifting profile, so it looks big when it puffs out, and then all of a sudden your dodger swings back the other way, and it's a narrow profile. I have flat been hammering fish on this. So that's something, you know, I always like to throw out there, because honestly, Frank and I are about the biggest adversaries on the water, yet I can't quit using his lures, and it bugs me. But so, again, transitioning. So like scent brands, baits, all that. Frank doesn't like corn. I do. Can you use maggots? Yeah, you can use maggots. Can you use real maggots? Yeah. Can you know, any fish don't know what it is, just like Frank said. They don't know this is corn. They don't know those are maggots. They're associating it with something in the water. But when it comes to bait, you also got to talk scent. And I know that there was another seminar where they said scent doesn't matter, but it does. Early in the year, you want to go with natural scents. I don't have any here, but like Super Dippin' Sauce is, you know, it's kind of the number 1 in scent brands around here. It really is. It's an all natural. It's heavy scent. It covers everything. So none of these little fingers are getting smelled by the kokanee. But natural scents early, your herrings, your krills, stuff like that. As you start to transition into later, those fish start to get out of feed mode. Now they start to get into, well, I might want to feed, but I also might want to go over there and kick that kokanee's butt. Okay? So then you start to get into the mixed scents. Krill anise, krill garlic, herring garlic. I've always said this from kings to kokanee. If you put 2 scents together, a feed and an aggression strike scent, you're going to target twice as many fish. There's some fish that want to feed. There's some fish that want to fight. If you put both of them together, you're going to target twice as many fish. You're going to have a lot bigger catch rate. Now, as the season progresses, those fish will start thinking a lot less about feed and a lot more about fighting. So think about it like as in fall Chinook. They have no feed on the brain. They have nothing but fight on the brain. That's why you hear of everybody running garlic scents. Garlic is an irritant. Fish hate it, so they hit it. They don't like it. That's why they bite it. So when somebody says, well, you know, you don't have to have a certain scent out there, this or that. No, you don't. I can go out there. There was years when I was growing up fishing in a little 12-foot aluminum boat. We didn't put scent on anything. Dad was smoking his cigarette, blowing it all over the lure, and you know, gas from the outboards on your stuff. And guess what? We caught a ton of fish. It's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the sport. Do you have to have it? No. But you want to be consistent? Then you'll use scent. Because you're going to trigger in that, ooh, these fish are getting aggressive. I'm going to run garlic. Because why? I'm going to trigger more fish to strike. Okay? Same with lures. Dodgers, for instance. You know, you've got things like the double Ds. I know a lot of people like them. I don't necessarily run them. I like the teardrops. People love the double D Dodgers or the, you know, the oval shaped Dodgers. They absolutely love them. Those to me put off a lot more action to where I would think you'd want to use those in the transition of the later season when the fish are more aggressive. The teardrops, like from Shasta Tackle or Rocky Mountain Tackle, the thing is about these, what I like, you can bend them and you can get whatever action you want out of it. If you want a little more, bend it a little more. If you want a little less, bend it a little less. Again, it's all about transitioning, folks. If you don't transition with the fish, you're not going to catch fish consistently. You're going to be that guy that goes up there, bangs out 20 fish today, and then spend 4 days going, what happened? They're not here anymore. Well, guess what? They're not there anymore. They have moved. Those kokanee are constantly on the move. Because they've got one thing on their brain right now, and it's food. When they turn the corner and head the other way, they've got one other thing on the brain, and it's not food. So, if you're unwilling to change how you fish, you're not going to stay on them for months at a time. So when I sit here and say, hey, guess what? I put 1,000 kokanee in the boat last year, had a great time doing it. If I would have stuck to what I do, like a lot of fishermen do, we are the most stubborn people in the world. Nobody wants, you know, I did not want to use Frank's flies. I wanted to go up there during this derby. I said, Frank, I ain't going to run them. I ain't going to do it. Because I ain't going to catch the fish, the biggest fish on your fly, and have to tell you that I did. You know? And then the last couple of days I've been up there and I'm like, good Lord, they're catching more and more bigger fish. And I'm like, great, now I'm going to have to run it. Just transition with the fish, folks. You know, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you look around at Mitchell Creek and you are the only boat and you have not had a bite in 2 hours, you might want to leave. If you head up to 25 Mile Creek and there is nobody up there and you're not getting any hits, you might want to leave. You know, this is a fun fishery. It's a lights out fishery. The only thing that schools more than kokanee are kokanee fishing. They really do. And when you see a herd of boats sitting off of Rocky Point and it looks like they're all having some big armada battle, join them because the fish are there. You know, not to say that you can't move a little bit, stay on the outer edge and hammer fish, but don't be that lone wolf out there trying to figure out what's going on. Honestly, there's people like myself, Mr. Zach McGlother from Northwest Sport Fishing. We kind of do that stuff already. It's our jobs. If you don't have a Facebook account, get on Facebook. Look up Northwest Kokanee Addicts. We are constantly, daily putting reports on there. This is where I caught them. This is how deep I caught them. This is what I was using when I caught them. This is how fast I was, how deep the fish were, how deep the water was. Everything that Frank said, we put it on there daily. There's no guesswork. We are trying to take the guesswork out of kokanee fishing. Do I want you to come book a trip on my boat and learn it firsthand? Most definitely. Love to have you on the boat. What I want to see more than anything is this fishery explode. Because kokanee fishing, even though we're a bunch of grown men and women and seasoned anglers alike, there's something about these little silver bullets that draw us back time and time again. You know, I love my 30-pound kings during the fall, but something draws me back to these silver bullets every year, and I just absolutely love it. That's why I do these seminars. That's why we write the reports we do. You know, I could come up here and tell you a seminar of run this dodger at this leader length, and you've heard it all before. You know what to do, you just got to know where to do it and when to do it. So I kind of gave you an idea. If there's some points you can take away from this, early in the season, 25 Mile Creek to Mitchell Creek, there's no reason to go higher. 25 Mile Creek to Mitchell Creek from, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because some of you want to be out there in January with us. January, February, March, 25 Mile Creek to Mitchell Creek. After the last full moon in March, you're going to want to start moving down lake a bit. The fish will start moving the last full moon of March. The mid-March lull, we've all heard about it. It happens. It's a real thing. Those fish gorge themselves and they head out.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to part 1 of Sam Baird's presentation on fishing kokanee in Lake Chelan. Stay tuned for part 2 as Sam continues to share information and get you ready for the Kokanee Derby here in 2016. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care and fish on.